Okay, so we discussed in the last class about we started discussing about the process API. So the system calls for managing processes, for creating a process, for creating a new process, executing a new program, and so on. So we only discussed this fork system call. We just discussed this fork system call. And this fork system call is pretty strange system call. Probably you would have not used such a strange system call so far. So what this system call was doing basically it's creating a new process. Whenever a process calls this system call fork, it creates a new process which is almost exact duplicate copy of the process which has created a new process. So in the sense that, as we said, that here basically it will create a new it will allocate a new memory for that process to run, and it will copy the executable of the current process into that thing. So the exact code and the static data and the register values, etc., everything will get copied to that to the new process, which is called the child process. It's not an exact copy because there is only one difference. The one difference that we said that the fork will return different value for parent and child. For child process, fork returns the value 0, and for parent process, fork returns the process ID of the child. And this thing is done on purpose. This differentiation is done on purpose so that you can write a code in which you can actually make a child process do something else and the parent process do something else. If everything was same, then there is no point of creating a new process because both processes will be doing the same thing, exactly similar thing. So you don't want to do that. You are creating a new process to do something different than the parent process. So for that purpose, the return value is different for child. Fork will return 0 for child and PID of the child to the parent process. And if it returns negative, then something went wrong in creating a new process. So it will return a negative value. So so what we said basically, what happens since even the program counter value gets copied, so the child process starts executing just after the fork, as if it has just become alive after the fork system call. So after the fork system call, the child will start executing the next instruction after the fork. It will not start from the beginning. So it will start executing the remaining part of the code which is after the fork system call. And this example we showed that what output will print, and we actually showed a more better example. Let me show you. So we showed one demo here for this program. So this program here basically what we were just demonstrating how fork system call works. So we are calling a fork system call which is returning a value into a variable RC. If it is negative, then it means the fork has failed and we can just exit or whatever you may want to do. But if RC return value is 0, then you know this is a child. Then in this within this if within this if else block, we can write the part which the child process should execute. So if you want child process to do something different than the parent process, then you should write that part in this else if portion. And in the last else portion means the value of our return value is something positive, which will be basically the process ID of the child. So this part will be executed by the parent. So we were basically here we are just doing some different printf statements. For child we are printing a different statement, and for parent we are printing a different statement. And we showed the example what basically it ran. We'll just run it again. So the first hello world is only printed once by the parent process whose PID is 73. Then each of the process, the parent and child, is executing only one of the printf statement which belongs to one of the if else block. So the parent is executing the last printf statement, hello I am parent of 74, which is the return value that the parent process has got, and which is basically the PID of the child process, as you can see. So that is what we are printing, and child is printing a different printf statement. Hello, I am child, and it's printing its own PID. I'll spend a little bit more time on this for system call because there are sometimes in examinations, in some competitive examinations like GATE and all that, some these simple questions comes related to for. So let me just give you some simple examples, and I'll ask you the output of each one. Change the color. So we'll start with some very simple program, let us say. So what should be the output of this program? There is a simple variable, counter variable C, initialized to 0. I am incrementing it twice, one before fork and one after fork. I am printing that value. What should be the output?
Zero, one, one.
0, 1, 1. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to say any other output?
0, 1, 2.
0, 1, 2. Okay. Anyone else? Both are not right. Any other output?
0, 1, 2, 2.
0, 1, 2, 2. This is also not right. Sorry.
So
One.
1, 1, 2, 2.
1, 1, 2, 2. This is also not right. Sorry.
1,
So
2, 2.
Yeah.
1,
1,
2,
2, 2.
Yeah, this is right. So what I was saying, this fork is a little strange system call. It means it is. I was right. Many people have not still understood what is fork doing. So the right answer is 1, 2, 2, and I think in this program it should not be very difficult to understand why. So when you are executing main program, only one process is running. It is initializing this C to 0, then incrementing C to 1, and it is doing so only one process is going to do this printf. So the first printf will only give the output 1. After fork, now here we have, so one process parent was coming in, and after fork we have created one more child process, and the parent process also continues. Here I have not done if else, we have not used any return value. So both both the parent and the child process are going to execute the same code. So I have not used any if else block. So both are going to continue from the child process is going to continue after for, and the parent also is going to continue its execution after for. The only difference is child will start from after the first instruction from the fork, not from the beginning. So both are going to do C++. Now remember what we said, at the time of fork, an exact duplicate copy is being made. So if there is a variable C here, if there is a variable, that variable will also get copied during time of forking. So the value of C, which was 1, at this point the value of C was 1. So when the child has been created, the child will also have the value of C as 1 itself. So it will also increment the value of C to its own C variable to 2, and parent will increment its own C variable to 2. So both are going to print the same output, 2 and 2. So let me write it child here to make it different notation. So C is the variable and CH is the child. So both parent and the child process has C as 1 at the time of forking, and this also has C as 1 at the time of forking. So when they both increment C++, they will both will do C is equal to 2 and C is equal to 2, and after that they both are going to print the value 2 and 2 only. So I hope that was clear now. Okay, so let me erase this. give another example just to make it still more clear. So what do you think should be the output of this program? Second example. It's a simple one. You don't have to be afraid.
So 5 and minus 5.
5 and minus 5. So who told this?
Rishikesh.
Okay. Anybody else wants to give any other answer?
minus 5 and 5.
Minus 5 and 5. Okay, here is a slight twist here. Good. I like both the answer. Anybody else? Huh?
It can be one of these two, right? I think.
Yeah. But is there any other option also? Anybody else is thinking of any other answer? If everybody is thinking one of these answers, then I'll go ahead with the explanation. But if anybody has any other answer in his mind, you can just volunteer. So yeah, the answer can be any of these two. I'll explain why any of these two. But whether these two only output can come, that I think should be clear, because this part of the code will be run by which process? This if block will be run by which process? Within these two instructions will be run by which process?
The forked one.
The
Parent.
child or the parent?
No, the parent.
Parent, yeah. Because
Child
for non-positive, yeah, parent gets a non-positive value, which is the PID of the child. Non-positive, I say non-zero values, which is the PID of the child. So this part of the block will only be run by the parent process, because whereas child gets the zero value returns. So for this, if condition will be false, so child is going to execute the else part of the code. Okay. So before 4, both have value C as 0. So one of them will get value C as 5 and print 5. Another will print C as minus 5. Now, which one will print which first? That is a non-deterministic. So depends on the scheduler, which of the process the scheduler assigns the CPU. So it is hard to predict. Sometimes you may you may get this output, another time you may get the other output. So it all depends on the scheduler. It's not always predictable, because scheduler is little complex things. We'll talk about scheduler in our probably next class itself. So the output of this will be non-deterministic, but in the sense which one will print, whether the child will run first or the parent will run first, that is not that depends on the scheduler. Good. So next, let me take another example.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in example 2, what will happen if the fork fails?
Yeah, if 4 fails here, then none of these things will return, and just the program, none of the output will come, and the program will terminate, because
Sir,
we have
because
not.
fork will return a negative value, and in if that will be true. So
Okay. In that case, yeah. So in that case, yeah, you will only get
5 will be
5
the
value.
output, yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, so yeah, this is so you are thinking little further there. So this code, I just for simplicity, I did not handle the third case, because normally you don't encounter that third case so often in today's systems.
Yes,
because
also, sir, when does a fork fail?
yeah. So it's I have not encountered such a scenario when fork fails, but that only will fail in a scenario when resources are not sufficient. Your system memory is probably fully occupied, and the OS does not find any way to create a new process and allocate the process a new memory that it may need. So in that case, fork will fail. So for in our modern systems, it rarely happens that fork fails. But yeah, that scenario will only happen when the resources that are needed for creating a process, which is primarily memory in the beginning itself. In the beginning, only process will need only a memory. So if the memory is fully occupied, there is not even sufficient memory available, then in that case, process fork may fail. So, but those scenarios are very, very rarely encountered. So that's why we did not explicitly write the code for that. But yeah, if that case happens, then only you will only get basically the output 5. So
Sir,
yeah, the third.
can you explain second example once again how it will flow?
How it will?
Means how the program will run exactly? Can you tell once again? We will
Okay.
encounter fork in first condition.
Mhm.
Then it will return 0 or it will return address. Means I am unable to get how it is flowing. Means why
Okay.
5 and minus.
Yeah, I will try to understand. So let us say, let me just scroll it up here. So when main started, we have only one process running, which is basically your parent process. I'll just call it parent. It has initialized as its own local variable c as 0. It first it encountered when it execute this part of the code. It will before checking the if value, it will try to execute this expression. In this expression, there is only a call to fork. Okay, so so as soon as this fork is encountered, the parent process will create a new child process, and both of them will continue after this instruction. Now the parent is going to receive what the return value as some positive value, which is the PID of the child. And let me write it exact thing. It is going to get the PID of child here. The fork is going to return the PID of the child for the parent, and in case of child, fork is going to return the value as 0. The return value will be 0. So now this expression will get evaluated differently for parent and the child. In the parent case, the output of this expression fork is basically some positive value. So it will execute this if part. For the child case, the output of this expression inside this if is the result value is 0. So the child will straight away jump to the else part. Is that clear now?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. So parent is going to execute this if part, and child is going to execute this else part, and the output is coming. And of course, the third scenario is that somebody said in case fork fails, then child has not at all been created. Then only the parent is going to continue. And in this case, because there is only one block for both parent and for the failure case, so in that case, only 5 value will get printed. So yeah, that is also a possibility. Strictly speaking, then there are 3 possibilities, possible outputs for this program. Okay, so let me take another example just to. Now here you may get now a little bit confused, although my so what will be the output of this part of the code? So assuming this is in main, I'm not doing anything else here. What will be the output here?
The parent will keep on forking it and the child will print 1.
So what will be the final output?
1, 1, 1 infinitely.
Infinitely.
Or
Okay.
4 times 1.
Hmm?
4 times 1.
4 times 1. Okay. Any other? No, you don't have to be so afraid. Don't think so beyond. It's not that tricky.
So it should be 3 times 1.
3 times 1. So who is this?
So Adesh.
Adesh.
1, 1, 1.
Yeah, the right answer is this one. So let me explain it. So what is happening here? Again, parent is coming. It is doing fork. So a new child process is getting created here. Okay. Now, who will execute this second fork? The second fork is going to
The
be
child.
executed by the process which gets a positive return value, isn't it? This if has to be true. So for whom this if will be true?
Parent.
Parent is going to get the positive value. Child is going to get the 0 value. So child is not going to execute this fork. Only parent is going to execute this second fork. So parent is going to now execute another child. So let us say child 1 and now child 2. Okay. So child 1 is not going to execute, not going to do any fork. Only the parent is going to do the second fork. Now after this fork, we have 3 processes now currently running: the original parent, child 1 and child 2. And this printf, there is no if else condition for this printf. So all of them 3 is going to print the value 1, 1, 1, 1. Which one will print in which order does not matter here because everyone is printing same value. So there will be only one answer, 1, 1, 1, 1. Of course, assuming if there is a failure or fork, then you may get that thing. So probably in the question, if this kind of question will come, there will be a assumption that assume fork is successful in both cases. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, when we do for a child, what will happen?
When we do fork for a
Child process.
child will also
Let-
fork is irrespective of whether you are doing it for parent or child. Whenever you do a fork, it is going to create a new process and make a copy of the current process into that. So whether you are doing it within a child or a parent, fork does not worry about that. But here what I'm saying is this child will not get an opportunity to do this second fork because for the child this if condition is not true, because fork has returned value 0 to the child process. So in the child process this if condition becomes false, so the child is not going to execute this fork at all, the first child. And for the second child there is no fork after that, so second child is not going to do any fork. So there is going to be just one printf. Each of the 3 processes is going to do this printf statement, and you will get a output as 1. Final example.
Sir,
Yeah.
this printf statement was in else, like it would have been else printf 1, then what would have been the output?
Yeah, if you'd have done else here, then what would have been output? So who would like to tell this?
So there would be only one that will be printed because
Only
there
one.
would be only one
From the child.
process.
Compilation error, I guess. Because
why
for the child,
Because for the
then there is no if statement and there's just an else statement.
no, the code remains the same. For
Oh, it just
every
gets executed from there.
both child 1 and child 2 are going to get the same copy of this code. So if you save it in this, you save it as abc.c and you execute it or compile it, basically both child 1 and child 2 are going to get this code of abc.executable into the copy. But for C2, when the second child has been created, at that time the program counter will point to the next instruction, which will be basically in terms of assembly language, it will be somewhere, but there won't be any compilation error because the program has already been compiled for both, and only you are already loading an executable. So yeah, so this printf statement is only meant for the first child. So only the first child is going to do this printf first. Parent is going to just fork into the second child. But now both of them will continue after the else statement. So after the else statement, whatever was there, it would have done, but here there is nothing. So both of them are going to come out of if else and complete and exit from the main program. So only one printf will get executed, although two new processes will be still created. Child 1 and child 2 will still be created in this case. Okay. So let me take another example here.
Sir, what is the practical use case for for?
Yeah. Good. So that is what will come. So this is not a what we are here telling you is not a practical use case, but just as I said, sometimes these kind of questions comes in GATE and other exams. So I'm just covering it. So
Sir, can you
just
explain the third question again, the example 3?
So
if we
along
use
with
else, if we use
if you use
else.
else, okay. So if you use else, then the thing is that then nothing changed. The forking will happen as earlier. First fork is going to create the child 1 and then only within this if only the parent will go, and the first child will go to the else part and it will print 1 and complete. Now this parent which will fork another child 2. Now both will come out. After forking, both will come. Now because this else part will not be when else part will not be executable by both P and C2 because they are within F. So if else, basically the very purpose of this if else construct is such that either you will be executing if part or you will be executing else part. So since both P and C2 are within this if part, they will not be going into the else part of the code. They will continue after the else part. So after the else part, if there was any instruction, both of them will execute. But since there is no here instruction, so they will just terminate from the main program. So two new processes still will be created, but the printf will be only executed by the first child.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So yeah, I'll come to the practical part in just a second, just a minute. Let me just complete one more example for the sake of this. Sometimes objective question can come in your exam also. I can give this just to test your programming and concept and your for concept. So what should be the output of this program, assuming fork is successful? How many new processes will be created and what will be the output?
So two new processes will be created and only once the one will be printed.
So two new processes will be created and only one will be printed. Okay, any other opinion? Anybody has any other opinion?
Three processes and one output.
Three processes and only one as the output. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the answer, the correct answer is the first itself. So only two new processes will be created, and so in total there will be three processes. What I have asked is how many new processes. So there will be only two child processes, and the output will be just one. So do you want me to explain it? Anybody,
So can
anybody
you
know?
explain the right side of and?
Okay. So here there are two fork within and. So what will happen? The parent process comes, it will execute fork. So parent process comes, it executes first fork, so you get a child. Now for the parent, the return value of this fork will be positive. So it is going to also evaluate this second expression, which is another fork. So it is the parent is also going to do another fork and create another child 2. But for the child 1, the value of this fork return value was 0. So if you remember in C programming, and this AND operator is a short circuit operator. So if one of the expression becomes 0, the other expression does not get executed. The program, the compiler will not execute this itself. So the first child will not get an opportunity to fork to execute the second fork. So the first child will continue as it is. So for the first child, the value is 0. So it is not true. This condition is not true. So it is not going to do printf. Similarly, for the second child also, the return value is 0. The first return value was positive, but the second return value was 0. So again, this condition became false. So it is also not going to give the print statement. Only the parent, both fork are going to return positive values. So this condition will be true only for the parent. So parent is only going to do the printf. So only one printf will be there, and there will be 2 new processes, child processes will be created. So the correct answer is this. So anyhow, this in practically you will not be writing a code like this. So it was just to sometimes tests, just like in C programming language, sometimes you get very these tricky things of expression evaluation and all that thing. So sometimes similar code can come here also for testing your programming and other thing. But for our purposes, what is important, let us try to understand what the semantics, why this fork call is there. But before I can actually explain its practical use, I have to complete 2 other system calls which go along with fork. One is called wait system call. What this wait system call does, basically, it helps the parent to wait for its child to die. None of the parent would wait for its child to die, but here in this system, many times parent would like to wait before its child terminates. So whenever parent wants to wait, or another reason, you may want to make the output deterministic. So as I said, if you just fork out, now whether the parent will get the first opportunity to run or child will get the first opportunity to run, it will depend on a scheduler. But if you want to make it deterministic, you want child to run first and parent to wait, again you can use wait system call for that purpose. So what wait does, wait causes a parent to block until the child terminates. Okay, so let me just show you the simple program for this. Yeah, so it's the same program, printing a hello world, doing a for. If less than 0, then fork failed. In child, we have not done anything else except the printf statement remains the same, except we have introduced some sleep statement here, so that child, instead of completing child immediately, child takes some time to execute, complete its process. So we have just introduced a sleep statement here, so that it at least sleeps for 1 second. In the parent now, we have introduced one more line of code where we are calling this wait system call. Now this wait system call will help the parent to wait till all its child finishes. So if parent has created multiple childs, till every child finish, parent is going to get blocked at this statement. It will not continue after this. It will keep on waiting till all its child executes. If he wants to wait for a specific child, then there is a variant of this wait system which is called wait PID. In that case, you pass that PID of the child, specific child that you want to wait for. So in that case, there is a wait PID system call, and you in the argument you pass the PID of the child process for which the parent wants to wait. And after the child finishes, then only the parent will execute this printf statement. So if you execute this this program, so as you can see, after when child was executing, it waited for 1 second. Parent did not print its printf statement. It waited for 1 second till the child finishes. Then only the parent actually executed. In case if I comment out this sleep, in case if I comment out this sleep function, what will happen? Or if I don't comment out this sleep, let us say, if I comment out this wait function, then even if the child got the first opportunity to run, as soon as it went into sleep, the CPU will give the parent to the OS will give parent the turn to run. So parent will continue its task and it will finish before child. So you can see that I can recompile it, but just for saving time, I just want to save it. But I think this is self obvious. So this was the purpose of wait system call. Again, it's not so very useful unless you encounter the next system call that we are going to talk about. It just helps to synchronize parent and child. But the one which is more interesting, which is also kind of a strange system call, almost similar to fork, although not so strange as the fork itself. It is called exec system call. It has its yeah.
Sir, what does wait return wait system call? What is the return value of wait?
I haven't. Let me. So normally there is a man page. Whenever you want to dig out the details of the arguments and the returns of each system call, you can go to the man page and type. So for example, if I go to the terminal, if I type man and if I want to know about wait, I don't know whether manual pages are installed in this. Yeah, it's installed. So you get the entire details. So you should get into a habit of using man pages to read about the exact description of what basically it does. So generally, if you can see, it returns the PID. So PID underscore city. So it is going to return the PID. So I think it is going to return value of PID can be less than -1, meaning wait for any child process whose process group ID is equal to the absolute. -1 meaning wait for only. No, this is for wait PID actually. So it's slightly detailed things are there. What I can guess, there should be some example use case. If you go down here, deeper here, there will be some more examples to understand what exactly. On success returns the process ID of the terminated child. On error, it returns -1. Yeah, so that return value will only help in case if there is an error. So then you will get -1. Otherwise, it will return the process ID of the terminated child. So it basically helps error handling if there is an error termination of the child and all that. So in that case, you can use this. So yeah, if you can see the output of our program, actually when we ran this output. So if you return if you see the WC return value of the was 85, which was basically the PID of the child.
Okay.
Okay. So let me come to the more interesting one, which makes this useful. So as I said, if the parent and child are executing the same code, it is not so useful. What we want is that why would we want to create another process? We would want to do it a different. We want that other process to do a different job. So to make it do a different job, we have to somehow be able to load some different code into the child process. So this exec system call is exactly meant for that. It makes the current process execute another executable by loading it to its memory. So what it basically means, maybe let me show you a demo, then it should become more clear what is basically meaning. Let me come to this third program. So again here what we are doing, forking. First is just error handling. Second is the child process when RC is 0. So in the child process we want to basically do something else than basically the same code. We want the parent process is basically this main program, but in the child we want to load some other process. So for example, there is a WC word count command. If you in your terminal, if you run this WC command, let's say for p3.c itself, p3.c is a file. If I run this word count, it will tell me the number of lines in that file, number of words, and the number of bytes. Okay, so now this WC is an executable which is residing somewhere in your system. Okay, so if I want this let us say I want to load the executable of this WC into this child process. So I want this child process to run this program rather than this original program of the parent. So for that we will use this exec system call. So there are many variants of exec system call. There are total six different variants of exec system calls. They take different arguments in different ways. They are very slightly, the semantics is slightly different. So again, you have to read man pages to understand the entire thing. But I will be just explaining about this exec VP. So what this exec VP takes, basically the first argument, it takes the executable, the name of the executable which you want to execute. So if it is one of the standard executable file, the OS will know its path, because standard executable files, there is a .path file which OS keeps in its repository, and in that .path file all the standard paths for different executables are already written. If you are creating your own system file, if it is in the current directory, you don't have to specify the entire path. If it is not in the current directory, you have to specify the full path as a first argument. And that executable, if it takes further command line arguments or as an input, then all those arguments you have to pass as an array of strings as a second argument. So that is what exactly we are doing here. We have created an array of strings, my args3. So in the first argument, we have passed the name of the executable, which is WC word count file. Again, as I said, if it is your own program, you have to write this the full path here where exactly this executable is residing. Then the second argument, we are passing the argument. So as I said, WC needs the name of the file for which he will do the word count. So I am specifying the same file p3.c here. This string duplicate basically just duplicates this string into this thing. And the last argument I provided null. So null, by null it will know that it's the end of the arguments. There is no more further arguments. So normally you have to terminate it by null. This exec VP needs the arguments in this format itself. So n number of arguments. If you with WC, if you want to provide multiple arguments, you can just append all of them in this my args list, and at the end you provide null. So when you pass this exec VP, at this point what it will do, it will load the executable of WC into the memory image of the child process. So now no more this. So earlier this program was in the memory of this child process, but as soon as this exec VP call is encountered, the memory image will be overwritten by the executable of WC, and its stack, heap, and everything will be reinitialized. So now, after this point of time, it will no more execute this code. It is going to execute only the code of this WC program. So let me run this program, and I'll just show you the output first. So P3, if I run the program, so the first hello world has been printed by the process ID, whose process ID was 118. Then child got returned to run. It did the first printf. Then after once it encountered the exec, it basically executed the code of the WC program, where it basically counted the number of lines and words in there. And then if you remember, this printf statement has not been executed by the child process. Why? Because this exec system call never returns. Until unless it fails, this exec system call is not going to return, because exec system call will override the new executable into that space. So no more your original code is there. Your original code is now overwritten by the new executable. So this printf statement or anything after the call to exec will never be executed. So that's why this printf has not been printed. So this child will terminate. Now parent got scheduled. Parent is going to execute. Parent is going to wait till child finishes and then execute its printf statement. And that is what is happening here. So is this clear? Any doubt here? So through this combination of through exec and for, we are able to create a new process and execute another program or another process into another executable into that thing. Now you may ask why to have two different system call for this? Why not do it in the fork itself? While calling for, we can provide the new executable and everything and just have a single system call. Why to separate these two why to have these two separate system call for that? And that we will see in the next class, because by separating these two things, it gives the facility for the parent program to do something in between. So after creating a new process and before launching a new executable, if the process wants to set up the environment, if you want to alter the environment so that the new process that is going to execute can execute in a slightly different way than it would execute normally. That's why these two calls are made separate, are separated by on purpose. So in between, we'll see that you can do a lot of things which will basically very interestingly modify the outcome of the programs. And we are going to explain this using the case study of a shell program. So in the next class, we are going to tell you how to write your own shell program. So whatever this shell terminal that we are running, you can write your own program to create this shell program. You can write your own program which can read all the command lines and execute them. And it will be interesting to write your own shell program in the next class. And you will see it's very simple. It's not, once you understood exec and for, writing a shell program is not so tedious. And in fact, our first programming assignment will be to write your own shell program, which can do pretty much all that thing that a normal shell program of a Linux or a Unix system does. Okay, so any question till this point? I'll take the feedback and attendance. And yeah, anybody has any question?
Sir, suppose a parent process is waiting for a child process to eliminate and the child process exceeds the time quanta of the CPU. What will happen then?
Then both parent and child will wait, and if there is another process waiting for that will get a chance to execute, and once the child again gets the chance, it will complete the execution, and parent is not going to run till the child terminates. So parent will be hung up till that point. So if there is no other process, if there is only parent child and there is no other third process remaining, then child will be again given a chance soon after that. Even though its time quanta is finished, scheduler will again decide that now child should run again, because it will assign parent to run, give a chance, but parent will again go to parent, it will already be blocked. So as we said, parent will not be in the ready queue itself. We saw that there are 3 transition states: ready, blocked, and running. So since parent is already in blocked queue, parent will not be given a chance to run till the child finishes. Is that clear, or should I explain it again?
Yes, sir, it's clear.